Deuce, this is sort of a Saints question, and we'll get to some of the needs a little bit later, but I want to ask you about Ashton Jeanty because he's clear-cut the number one back in this draft class, and you've gotten to see him play. Now, over the last 5 years, there's only been one running back picked in the top 10, and that was Bijan Robinson. He went 8th to the Falcons a couple years back. So your thoughts on, you've watched Ashton, him as a player. Would he be somebody that you would consider with that 9th overall pick?
Me personally, no. But when you look at it, I got to know his agent over the Super Bowl and some of the people that were working with him. And so I don't have anything against the player. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he will do really, really well in the NFL. But me personally, on how the league and how the game is being played, I'm not making that move. And here, how about this? I think the young man has the potential to be an all-pro player and maybe even a Pro Bowl player. But here's where I'm at. If I'm picking that high, why am I picking that high?
Because you bad.
So if I'm bad, I probably have multiple holes. Is a running back going to hide or change that much? Possibly. I mean, if you find the right guy, he possibly could. But offensively, how am I structured? Are we going to be able to turn around and hand it to him 20 times, or can we get him 20 different touches throughout the game? You know, are we in an area where it's going to be a cold weather game? I can turn around and hand it to him 20 times, or I've got to hand it to him 10 times, 15 times, and then I got to get him in space, you know, the other 5, 10 times. If that's the case, then what else out there is similar to him? You know, it's from a running back's perspective. And so it's like, but Deuce, you're a running back. Why wouldn't you pick him top 10? I mean, all right, how's the game being played? Who is similar? I mean, and I don't think that you have somebody that is truly similar to him, that if we're putting him in the box of one, I probably have some guys that are 2, but not quite 1. Because right now he's a 1 for me. He is in box number 1. But with box 2, I got close, but guess what I just picked up? I probably just picked up another offensive lineman. I probably just picked up another defensive lineman that could help my team that was picking in the top 10. So I said all that to tell you what I really said in the beginning. No, I wouldn't pick him as a top 10 player, but he deserves to be picked as a top 10 player.
My thing is, you sort of like my feelings. You got to go with a big man. It doesn't matter. I think up front, offensive, defensive line, the quarterback talk, that's all great and fine. And you hear all that stuff this time of year anyway.
Wait. You mean for the Saints?
For the Saints.
Mean for the Saints?
For the Saints.
I was just talking about him in general. I definitely wouldn't do it if I was the Saints.
No way. No, I feel the same way because, Deuce, in this draft class, I went back 5 years, and there have been 98 running backs picked the last 5 years. Basically, it's averaging 20 running backs a year. You know how many graded running backs have in this class? That 34. 34.
Like you that window of late first to probably third, there will probably be 15 running backs taken. Late first to third round. There will probably be 15, maybe a little high, but I feel comfortable about 10 to 15. I feel comfortable between late first, and so we're talking 20 all the way to end of third round, maybe even middle of third round. I think that you will have 10 to 15 running backs taken, and some of those guys will be very, very, very good players. Juckins
That's what I was going to ask you about.
At Ohio State. A really, really good running back. You know, if there's one knock on Juckins, you're going to say, well, he's not and most guys aren't. He's not a 4-4 guy. He's not a 4-3 guy. Very rarely on film do you see him pulling away from people. But is he a good back? He is a heck of a back. A heck of a back. His teammate, Henderson, same thing. Now, Henderson is a guy that you see just pure speed. I mean, just pure speed. And so he may not be a guy that I get him 20 touches a game, but if I can get him 12 touches a game and 4 are in space, there's a pretty good chance that one of those 12 touches is going to be a plus 30, a plus 40. And, with a plus 40, it may be even 6. It may be a touchdown. So I think there are plenty of teams that would take that. And then I think, Hampton out of Carolina?
Marion Hampton, yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't even got to a guy that, and I don't know if he's third round. You may have a team that falls in love with him. What's our ASU man?
Cam Scatterbo.
Scatterbo. And so he is just a hard, rugged football player. But the problem he's going to have is, man, he breaks tackles, but he's not very explosive.
No.
So he's got to be a guy that, hey, I can find somebody that's maybe similar, but maybe not as physical. And so there's no knock against Genty being taken. But I wouldn't even talk about the Saints. I would really scratch my head, but that's a whole different question. But for any team, he deserves to be taken the first 10 picks, but I just truly can't justify it, with the teams that are picking there.
I know you got to see him because y'all played against him. Ole Miss, I'm talking about Mississippi State. Woody Marks, man, and I told this to Charlie. Every time I watch him play, he's not the biggest or the fastest guy. Man, he's got really good vision. He's quick. Man, he can catch the football like a wide receiver. He catches the ball so clean, you wouldn't have to use an early round pick on him. But I know one thing, he helps your football team pretty quick.
When he played, basically, he was like the receiver when he was at Mississippi State because he played up under Coach Leach. And so, I'm going blank on the high school that he went to. I think it was like Yazoo City or somewhere up in there. But Woody was a guy that he's a tailback, but really almost like an H-back. But he's got size as a true tailback. But, up at State with Coach Mike Leach, he was a guy that, caught the football. That's really where he probably refined that aspect of his game. And I agree with you, Mike. He's a guy that you can throw it to out of the backfield. He can block. He's going to have to block in the NFL. He can block for you. So he's a guy that, hey, I don't need for you to be the bell cow because I know that you're going to get me maybe 400 yards catching, receiving-wise, and then you've got a chance to maybe get me 400 yards rushing-wise. And if you're getting that from maybe a third or fourth rounder, somewhere in there, I think you're fairly pleased with that.
Deuce, it's such a loaded class. You're just throwing out a bunch of names, and I'm just salivating thinking about some of these guys, especially, rounds 2 and 3 and stuff like that, because I agree with you. I don't think, Genty at 9 maybe is just not the situation for him with the Saints. I agree that he will probably go top 10. Mike and I love the Raiders for him at pick 6.
Because of who's the head coach,
exactly.
What he wants to do.
With Pete Carroll now there. But your thoughts, because we've also talked with different reporters about, maybe with this loaded running back class, the Saints could come away with 2 running backs potentially. And you don't have to use your first round pick or second round pick on a guy. But if you have 2 third round picks, you have 2 fourth round picks, you have, a second, 7th round pick as well later on in the class. So just your thoughts on the Saints and this running back class potentially getting 2 guys.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if it's the running back position that picks 2 players, but I wouldn't be surprised for one position to have 2 players in there, with one of them being a mid to high, draft pick. They've got to address it. They know that they've got to address that position to be able to get somebody behind Alvin. They know they have to be able to do that, and to be able to come away with the guy that they feel really good about. And then I'm fine taking a guy that maybe has one skill set, kind of like we talked about, that just is a pure speed guy, or is just a physical guy that, hey, we got a role for him. He's got to be able to prove a little bit on special teams, but we've got a role for him. And so I may be leaning more towards that guy with just one specific skill set, being a late round pick or even a free agent guy. But, they've got to come away with a running back, really for me in that top 100 to be able to say, hey, we got a guy that can help and can give us, whether it's the breakaway speed or can give us the pound aspect. They've got to be able to come up with that.
Dude, so the one area that I think that they would really like to upgrade, now I think you're going to have to use an early round pick and maybe multiple, is that cornerback. Because, last year when we were talking about it on the draft days, we talked about the fact that, you got Lattimore, and we knew it was going to be his last year here, no matter what. And you had Paulson Adebo, and then you spent a second-round pick on Kool-Aid McKinstry. So you had that threesome, and you had some really good nickel and dime corners. You look at this squad today, Alante's there, okay, and you got Kool-Aid. you better use an early round pick on a cornerback.
I agree with you 100%. I know that you wanted to bring back Paulson, but, the numbers were going to have to work for both sides. And, even before the injury, that was going to be a stretch just because you saw what some of the other guys were getting. And look, you're proud for him. He got paid and hopefully he bounces back, but it won't be here. And so that's another position that, hey, top 100, I got to come away with a guy that can help me. I've got to be able to come away with a guy that maybe he's not a day one starter, but he's a guy that I can pencil in to be able to use him in certain situations. And so I wouldn't be surprised for them as well to be able to look at that veteran corner market to say, hey, we didn't pick necessarily enough guys. Are you interested? Or even to be able to make a trade, and it may be for a future pick as far as a corner is concerned. But yeah, I think that you have to be able to add not only young talent but some vets into that room to make sure that you're protected from that corner position, whether it's inside and out.
Deuce, one of the debates is about the tight end position, and I think that certainly is a spot you need to get upgraded. But looking from a Saints standpoint with the 9th pick, and, the two names out there, certainly Tyler Warren from Penn State, Colston Loveland from Michigan. And we saw what Penn State did with Tyler Warren. Man, they used him all over the board. He was literally their version of Taysom Hill. They played him at the X receiver, Y receiver. They played him inside like an H-back as a regular tight end. He played fullback. He played quarterback. He played on special teams, even played center for a couple snaps. Your thoughts on if this team, and if it falls right, that Tyler Warren is your best player on the board, would you go with that?
I would probably lean heavy that way just because when you look at, hey, my OC, my head coach loves 12 personnel. Well, not to say that we don't have 12 personnel. We do, but you still got to get younger. You still need to add a little more explosion to that room. And then you talked about Taysom. Taysom's coming off an injury, and so what happens there? How long does it take for him to come back? And there may still be some other options to be able to fill a void like Taysom, as far as a traditional quarterback that's more of a runner. You talk about Milroe, maybe later on in the draft, late 1, 2, somewhere in there. But I wouldn't be upset with either one of those picks as far as the tight end is concerned, because you're basically going to live out of 12 personnel, and if I'm going to live out of 12 personnel, I've got to feel good about the options that I'm putting out on the field. And so that you need to get a little younger at that position, and then if I can get a guy that's a playmaker, a young playmaker, to be able to help me offensively, then I think that takes some pressure off of the other spots as well.
Deuce, thanks so much for joining this afternoon. Always appreciate it, bud.
All right, no problem. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. We'll be full blast with our draft talk, and the Saints OTAs, different things start up in a couple of weeks, so it won't be long.
All right,
Deuce.
thank you, Deuce. Appreciate it.